Good afternoon. This is Jamie Keeling and we are Optimise Me. This is the brand new Optimise Me podcast coming out to you from the deepest, darkest depths of Wales. So, I've got a very special guest for you today in Mr. Kevin Bennison. Kevin, say hello to the people.
How are you doing? Nice to see you.
So, I'm going to get Kevin to introduce himself fully and properly in a short while, but just briefly, Kevin is a world champion martial artist in Taekwondo. He is the managing director of SWL Training. And he is a certified NLP practitioner, so he's a thoroughly inspirational guy and a thoroughly interesting dude to boot. So he will introduce himself properly in just a moment. Firstly, though, because this is the first podcast, I want to do a quick introduction for Optimise Me, what the podcast is all about, what I hope to achieve with it, and what I hope to achieve with the new company that I formed. So, really what this is all about is about being the best version of yourself, being absolutely the best you can be. I am absolutely and totally obsessed with peak performance in every single way. And that's not just peak performance in a physical sense or a mental sense, but across the board. I believe that in order to be fully optimized and fully effective and to truly be the best you can be in life, you have to have optimum health, you have to have optimum wealth, you have to have optimum levels of happiness in your life, and it's all got to be balanced. So it really has to be this 360-degree approach. And that's really what I want to achieve, because I believe that when we get to a point, and I believe we will, where we have a world full of financially free, inspired people who are free to do meaningful work in meaningful ways, doing things that are going to move the human race forward and just exponentially improve who we are as a race, who we are as a species, and what we do with ourselves on this planet and what we can achieve. You know, when people are stuck in boring 9-to-5 jobs, they're stuck doing things that leave them feeling unfulfilled. They're not doing things that are moving the human race forward, and I think that's a travesty that we really need to try and change. And I'm just going to introduce my children now. So my family just arrived home, so we're going to hear a little bit of kids in the background, but don't worry too much about that. I have a very busy household. I've got 5 kids knocking around, so it's a very busy house, and they've just got back from school and the mad school run. So sorry if there's any kind of loud screaming or child noises. Okay, so that's a brief introduction of Optimise Me. Kevin, would you like to just give us a brief introduction, who you are, what you do, and what you stand for, please, sir?
Yeah, okay, wonderful, thank you. Firstly, it's an absolute privilege to be here, Jamie. I'm really happy to be sharing this experience with you and supporting you in your journey with Optimise Me and getting this wonderful podcast launched. So thank you for having me here.
Thanks for coming, Kev.
So, yes, I am managing director of a company called SWL Training Limited. It's very niche, so we provide training and support to the lifting industry, which is primarily using cranes. So we all get told, you know, in business to make sure that we niche right down. Fortunately, I was already in a niche. Usually when I say to people, if they ask what I do, I'd say, I provide training for cranes. And they'll say, trains? You know, no cranes. And then the things that lift stuff, and particularly if it's somebody who's not, English isn't their first language, there's usually that difficulty in getting across that it's things that lift stuff. So, I provide training support to the lifting industry, not just the standard award and organisation stuff, which is all necessary, but also trying to help people in actually training for performance in the industry, and rather than just compliance. A lot of CPD stuff, bringing in a lot of things like communication and leadership into it as well, because that's often lacking in some industries and indeed in the workplace. So I would love to see people working in a more synergistic fashion within the lifting industry through communicating effectively. You get a lot of people who move up to supervisory roles and even managerial, and they may have the technical attributes and the experience for it, but not necessarily the personal attributes and the ability to really get the best out of people, and the whole principle of leaders create leaders. So I'm working on bringing that in a much more impactful way within the industry. So that's what I do, yes, and I'm also a licensed practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming, which has also helped, you know, to transform my life and a lot of the things that I do, and it's fantastic for helping people in, you know, just seeing things in a different, more positive perspective, thinking a bit more clearly, thinking a bit more smartly, and that works very well for my industry as well. So, yes, that's what I'm all about, and I just love developing. I do the taekwondo, all this, getting the mind right is definitely a massive thing for that as well. Yeah, it all starts in the head, whatever you're doing. So we could talk about any subject, it could be working in any industry, and about 80% will be probably the same.
Awesome stuff. Nice one. Thank you, Kev. So before we get cracking on the subject matter for today, and the subject matter for today is how rich people think, and how rich people, the way that they think is different from that of the middle class and the poor. So we're going to get into that quite controversial subject matter, and we're going to discuss opposing viewpoints in just a short while. But first, I have 6 questions for our dear Kevin. The first one, who are you and what you do, we've just covered. So thanks very much for that. That's fantastic. And the second one, what I'd like to know and what I'd love for you to share with our audience today is, what are your 3 core values? What are the 3 values that are most important to you in your life? Okay,
so there are certain things that I've come up with in my own words really recently, and things that I like to share with people. Of course, I've got a lot of general things that come from the heart, and just really trying to be a good person and a better version of myself. But that's general, and that can be applied to just about anybody. So working on just being a better version of yourself and better than you were yesterday. However, the 3 things that I would say are fairly specific, and they'll help people in life and indeed in their career, in business, and whatever. So the first thing I would say is, try working on making the difficult become easy rather than allowing the easy to become difficult. Now, that is all based on comfort zone. So many of us work within the comfort zone, and I used to as well. I used to say to people, don't step out of your comfort zone, because then you won't look an idiot. Actually, sometimes we need to look an idiot to be able to move forward. And there's no point in being scared of looking like an idiot, because everybody is an idiot sometimes. So the principle behind that is, if you come up against something that's a bit of a challenge, when you look at it and then you start pulling away rather than pushing through it, actually you've allowed something that is difficult to dictate what you're doing. You pull back from it, and what happens is, unfortunately, your comfort zone starts reducing. Your big metaphorical comfort zone, it starts reducing and getting smaller. So actually the things that may have been easier before, because you're not taking on those difficult tasks, the things that were easier start becoming more difficult. And if you keep going that way, you'll end up with a very small comfort zone and just stuck doing nothing, because you're not taking on any challenges.
That's a fantastic point there. That's brilliant.
Whereas if you push through and you get past that difficult thing and go beyond that, your comfort zone, as you may call it, will expand, because you're always pushing it, like trying to push out of a balloon.
Absolutely, yeah. And I liken this a lot to board breaking as well. I did a video in the group a couple of days ago or yesterday, wherever it was. I was just talking about the whole principle of board breaking in Taekwondo, is that if you hesitate, or if you kind of go up to the board to break it and you go to the board, then you're not going to break it. And actually what you'll find is, because your foot doesn't go through, a lot of that force that you do put into it comes straight back at you, and it can be very painful. But when you get the technique just right and you get it spot on, you don't feel a thing. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter how many boards there are, how thick they are to break. If you get the technique just right and you commit to going through, and it's the same with pad work as well. If you're going to be hitting a pad and the pad's there, you don't aim there, you aim past it. Mm-hmm. You aim through it, and that's how you get the real power, and that's how you really get through your obstacles. I thought that was a great analogy for how a lot of people tend to approach life, is they kind of come up against this hard stuff and they kind of give a little finger and give it a little push and kind of tentatively try and maybe get through it or around it or over it, but then they don't really commit, and then they get pain back as a result of that, because they push but they've not gone through, so the pain comes back to them, and then all they see is, oh well, I tried and it was painful, so I'm just not going to try anymore. Whereas if they just gave it their all and they committed, it's like when you burn the boats, you take the island. So you've really got to give your all to achieving something, to going somewhere, to achieving a goal. And when you do, and you burn the boats and you don't look back, the world's your oyster. Mm-hmm. That's great. So we've got 2 more?
Yes. So the second one is, in terms of our needs, and this was something that we done back at Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins, based on the human needs, and it was a nice realisation for me. that many people are driven by the needs of significance and certainty. They want to know what's happening in life, and often find, even family now, and the family are all great, they're all on board, but, when I'm talking about what I'm doing to them, they'll say, so what's the end goal? And that seems to be the case for many people. So what's the point that you'll stop? But, there's not really a point that you'll stop. You'll carry on evolving. Now, that's kind of getting rid of the need for certainty. When you don't actually know, you're just going to keep going. Yes, you've got to have your goals, of course. But then once you hit those, there'll be other goals beyond that. Now, in terms of contribution, whether you're looking for the need of certainty, and certainly for significance, and many of us like significance, we like people liking our posts on Facebook, we like people to compliment us and all the rest of it, which all feeds into our need for significance. Actually, when you switch to contribution being your highest value, and you're giving things to people, you're helping them, you're helping to develop them, and you always look to give first, what can you add? That will then help meet any other needs, particularly significance, and indeed connection as well. Many people are looking for connection. They want a friendship, they want a relationship, whatever it is. When you start giving to other people, you will open yourself up to those opportunities anyway. And you'll get the significance and recognition because you're helping other people. And most people will be very appreciative of that. And when there's a lot of people walking around appreciating how you've helped them, I mean, how much more significance and recognition could you really be after than people who are appreciative of how you've helped them?
Absolutely. That's a fantastic point, because the more and more you get, again, a lot of the struggle is, and I've been here myself, I know that for a long time in my life, I was focused on the success element, particularly when I used to play in a band. For years and years, I played music in various different bands. And eventually I kind of got to the point where I was chasing the success, I was chasing the fame, I wanted to make it, and I lost focus of the reason I started playing in a band in the first place. And that was because I loved making great music. I loved getting up on stage with a bunch of other people and just expressing myself in a way that I didn't know how to do in any other way. And to see a group of people standing in the crowd and feeling the same emotional pull that I felt to those songs, and to write those lyrics and to write the music and the melodies and to have your soul poured out in that way, it was just such an amazing thing. And I lost sight of that. And that's the whole beauty of making music and being a musician and playing live music. But when you get focused too much on the end result, the end point, then it's very easy to lose sight of all the important stuff along the way. And it really is, the focus should be on the journey, not the kind of the destination, because it's like an orgasm, isn't it? You spend all this time or 5 minutes depending on who you are, but the build up is the really enjoyable part, isn't it? The foreplay and the the foreplay and the sex and just going for it, but then you orgasm and for a split second it's like euphoria, but then it's over, and it's over in a split second. So it's the journey. I think it's a great way to illustrate that.
But we don't analyse that, do we? Because we just go to sleep.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So exactly. There's no analysis of what was the best bit, really.
but when you look at it, it's very similar to everything else in life as well. Is that the really enjoyable part is it's almost you have to try and struggle well. The struggle is the enjoyable part. That is the point of the journey, because the destination, when you get there for a second and that's it, and then you die. So. Yeah, I just think that's such a great point.
Mm-hmm. Lovely, yeah. So, third one?
Cool. So, question number 3. I've got my notes down here for those who are watching us live.
So, I've got one more. Yeah, the third value.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Third value.
So, the third one, I would say, and this is something I've certainly discovered, is to be who you truly are, not who you think that you should be. I'm not sure how many years of my life I was going around living as to how I thought that I should be. And that will then change depending on the environment you're in, the people you're with. Is it professional? Is it personal? So, I mean, you're getting this reflection back in this. For a start, you're sort of guessing as to how you should be to fit into that particular environment. And by the time you've guessed, the moment of becoming that person that you think you should be is probably over.
Changed, yeah.
So, yeah. So, I mean, you're chasing shadows, really. So, I don't know whether it's something that comes for people in later life, or some people are sufficiently enlightened to just live who they are when they're younger. But for me, certainly something that there was something going on. I realised that there's something not right here, this perfectionism and all that. It's not right, it's not working, something has to happen. But to then actually take action and realise what it was, I was getting towards my late 30s. And now I just try and be who I am, and people will come and go in your life, they'll appreciate that, some won't, some will be threatened by it. But actually, when you just act as your being, there's nothing else to be concerned about. You're just you, and it's a relaxing experience. Very little affects you because you're not getting that feedback of I'm trying to be this and that's not pleasing a person. It's this is who I am, and actually, if they're not keen on that, then that's unfortunate, but that lies with them, not me. There's nothing for me to change because I am who I am. But of course, when you put that hand in hand with this journey of trying to be the best person you can be and better every day, usually the results of that are pretty positive anyway. And I've certainly seen positive results with the circles of people and how people respond, and the way you endear yourself to people as a result. It's a whole better way to be.
Absolutely fantastic. So we'll move on to question number 3. What's the best book that you've read in the last 12 months, and why?
It would have to be The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
I'd never guessed.
There are a few that run close. And I'd started getting into self-development a little bit before that, and asking questions, and a bit of mindfulness, and to Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, which, when you're living in the land of the majority, you think that sounds like a terrible title, but actually it's about how you relate to people, so that was good. But then the real game changer, which provoked some deep self-examination, was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And there were so many different principles in there about taking responsibility for self. And once you've then got that personal victory, and you are in control of exactly how you are, and you take responsibility for everything that happens in your life, and you can't guarantee what's going to happen to you, of course, or indeed what happens as a result of what you do, but you can take responsibility and take control of how you respond to that and what meaning you give it. So that's a big thing. And then the first part of the book is about that private victory, the personal victory, and the second part of the book is then about public victory and how you relate to other people, and simple concepts like he talks about the emotional bank account that you have between two people, and you either pay in to that emotional bank account or you withdraw. When you do things that are unpleasant or whatever, or they're not in line with integrity, dishonesty, anything like that, or just saying things, simple things. And he talks about, if you don't seek to understand somebody first, you may think that what you're doing is paying in to the emotional bank account. But actually, if you haven't sought to understand, you may think it's good, but it's not good for them. So it comes to, you understand them, and then you do things that pay into the emotional bank account because it's helping, or it fits for the other person. So that then goes on public victory and how you relate to other people. So massive game changer. Took a while to really implement lots of those things, and lots of things I've done and read since have helped build up, but that was the game changer. And I thank my good friend Matt Wells, who's a successful entrepreneur, for recommending that book to me.
Awesome, fantastic. So you got a mention there, Matt. I have to say a confession that 7 Habits is actually one of the books I haven't read yet. I heard, but funnily enough, it was the first personal development book I ever bought. How crazy is that?
I'm aware you've not read it, Jamie, and unfortunately...
I feel like I have, though. I spent that much time with you, Kev, and you talk about it that much. But the things you talk about and the principles that you go through and what you've taken away from the book is just like... It's almost like it is a full system for how to live a fulfilled and happy life, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that's a great point that you made about you should always seek to understand the other person first. Perception is a very devilish thing. We should all bear in mind that there is no one version of reality. There is no one absolute truth. And if there is, none of us know what it is, because everything that we see in life, everything that we experience, every situation that we come across, we view through our own filters, and those filters of our past experiences, of our past emotions, of past relationships, and they really shape how we see the world and colour it in a very individual way. So it's very important that no matter what we see in life or who we encounter, we appreciate that we're seeing things with our own filters, and it's not necessarily the way that everybody else sees it.
Exactly. Yeah. So just 3 quick points on that. So Stephen Covey, he says the way we see the problem is the problem. So it's about what meaning we give it. You could give the same situation completely different meaning or different viewpoint as somebody else. So it's not how that is, it's how we see it. That's the problem. And in NLP we'll have this saying, which is spread out further and wider, of the map is not the territory. The territory is the real thing, but many different people will have different maps of that territory based on their perception.
Yeah.
And another thing you were touching on there about the past and how it shapes how we see things, which is all our conditioning, which comes from another book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And one of the real profound quotes in there is, "Die to the past every minute. You don't need it."
I love that. That's a great quote. Awesome stuff. So, moving on then from that, which single person has inspired and influenced you the most over the last 12 months, and why? Specifically, how have they influenced you and inspired you?
Okay, so I think anybody that knows me has heard me bang on enough about Tony Robbins. I use him as a role model. There's plenty of material online of Tony Robbins, and I think people have perhaps heard enough, so he is definitely up there. I'm not going to enthuse about Tony Robbins as much as I would like to, because I'm sure you probably have other guests on, they'll say it, and I'm sure you'll talk about Tony a lot too. So who I will mention is Richard Bandler, who is one of the co-creators of NLP. So back in the 70s, he co-created NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, with John Grinder. And, excuse me. So I saw Richard Bandler when I'd done my NLP practitioner course. And for me, I'd watched little bits about Richard Bandler and read little bits. But what happened was, all this learning I'd done over the course of the year before that, going to the seminars, watching Tony in action, reading books, it all seemed to bind together by the way Richard Bandler put things across. And he's very straight-spoken, and he can be controversial on stage, and it's really just getting the attention. And he'll say to you, why are you taking notes? Put the notes down. Why don't you just try listening, And what he wants you to do is allow the subconscious to open up, to absorb what he's saying, rather than you sitting blocking it out with your analytical filters. So Richard Bandler, you can look at some of his talks online, there's some of his stuff on YouTube. He's got a great way about him, and initially you think, wow, is he saying these things for effect? But you realise as the week goes on and you spend more time with him, and the similar things are coming out within the metaphors he's using, within his anecdotes. And he talks about smart thinking and stupid thinking. And when he tells a story and he goes, well, that's just stupid. And you think, well, he's kind of, putting that person down a little bit there. But actually it becomes very clear that what he's allowing you to do is make the distinction between what is smart thinking, i.e. what will help take you forward in life, or what is stupid thinking, which is stuff that is just going to hold you back. So all these fears, the conditioning, the unhelpful images, the unhelpful dialogue that people often have running in their heads. It's all stupid. So if you had the choice to get rid of it, so it's not holding you back, what choice would you make? If you choose to stick with it, it's stupid. If you choose to do something to get rid of it and think in a better way, that's smart thinking.
Yeah, the hard part is being honest with yourself about which is which, I think, isn't it? I think
it's easy to use it as a way to just, I'm not going to be able to do it, so I'll just leave it. It's a bit of a cop-out then.
Absolutely. Awesome. Okay, so we've got 2 more questions, and we're going to have a quick look at the comments on Facebook, because for those of you that are listening to the podcast on iTunes or something like that you've downloaded, this is being done on Friday the 19th of January, and it's coming out to you a few days after. So if you want to join the people who are getting this live right now, all you need to do is hit up Optimise Me on Facebook, join the Optimise Me community. I'm looking at the people who are watching us live right now, and we will be going out live in that community every time we do a podcast, whether there's guests or not. The people in that community will be getting first access, priority access to the live feed. We'll then share it around after that, so it will be made live on Facebook, and we'll be sharing it around to our various profiles, and obviously it will be up on iTunes and stuff as well. So, but if you want first VIP access, the group is the place to be. So, 2 more questions. What does your morning routine look like?
Very simple and straightforward. As much as I like meditating, I don't do it every morning. I admit I don't do priming every morning. I try and do them when I can, but I have a very erratic pattern in terms of the time that I get up. I have to go different places, so sometimes I'm up 5 o'clock, and sometimes to get up and go straight out to work. Sometimes it can be a bit later if I've been up late working, because sometimes I'll get creative in the evenings and work through to 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll lie in if I can. So my morning routine is quite simply, when the alarm goes off, I get up. There is no snoozes, none of that, because I just think, if you're going to keep snoozing, why not just set the alarm for later and get some undisturbed sleep? So there's that. I do sometimes check a bit of social media. It's a good time just to catch up if there's any comments or anything that is aligned with what I'm doing that I can respond to or pop up. Just a quick 10 minutes. I always have almost every morning have my poached eggs, and some breakfast cereal, and often some coffee, and of course get myself ready and presented reasonably, and get out the door and get to work.
I think the most important part of that as well is when your alarm goes off, your feet hit the deck. There's no snoozing, there's no laying in bed messing around. If you set your alarm for 5 o'clock, you get your ass out of bed at 5 o'clock. Yeah. It's as simple as that. I completely agree with you there, and it's so dangerous. Thing is as well with sleep is you can really time when you go to bed to when you need to get up by looking at your sleep cycles and kind of planning how much sleep you're going to get. So if you're working in 90-minute cycles, you kind of know, well, if I need to get up at 5:30, then I need to go to bed at X time, because you can work it out. And then if you kind of work all that out and you get to the 5:30, your alarm goes off, and then you hit snooze, well, you just entered another sleep cycle. So don't be surprised if you wake up an hour and a half later, 90 minutes later, or 45 minutes later, and you're like, shit. So, yeah, that's a really good, important point.
Well, it's kind of like sleeping on a bed of nails, really, That if you're sleeping on a bed of nails and you're finally going to get to sleep and it's really uncomfortable, and you got the choice of, what would you like us to do? Would you like us to wake you up at the time where you can get straight off? Or would you like us to wake you up 10 minutes early so you can just lie there on the bed of nails and feel it for a bit longer?
Yeah. Absolutely. Excuse me. So, final question in for you. What's the most important thing that you have learned from being a martial artist?
Develop your skills and focus on those. And focus on what you do, not what others are doing. Okay, in boxing, I understand that if the boxers are going against a particular opponent, that will go on for months leading up to that. But certainly with Taekwondo, and you can apply it to other areas of life, you're going to have to adapt regularly to different situations. So if you become very well tuned in the way that you are doing things, and you just practice, that will come out against whatever opponent. So you get, it took me a few competitions, but the first competition I went into, I lost simply because I was focused too much on what the opponent was doing, and I was worried about losing points rather than focusing on doing what I'd done to gain points. And I changed that and thought, no, well, the next couple of competitions were almost like a steam train coming through, because it was just driving front kicks, because I thought, I'm just going to completely dictate the situation. And then I relaxed and realised that if I just keep developing these skills, drilling, they can do whatever they want. I'm just going to keep doing what I do, adapt to the situation, and have that belief that what I do will take me through to the end. And it's worked quite well, because I've only lost once in the last 2 years.
Yeah, you've had a phenomenal run at your Taekwondo, and just the stuff you've achieved in Taekwondo alone, never mind the rest of your personal professional journey, has just been absolutely phenomenal. Winning the World Championships in 2016 and the British Championships and all these fantastic events, and I'm just really excited to see the things you're going to achieve, particularly in Taekwondo, but also your businesses and your personal life in 2018. I just think it's going to be a massive year for you, man.
Thank you.
Awesome, cool. So that's the questions done. I'm trying to refresh the laptop so that I can get some comments up, but it's not playing ball. So let's just try that again. I think we've picked up the wrong Wi-Fi. So let's just refresh this. So I just want to go on to Facebook now, just to have a quick look to see who's with us live. I know there are a few people with us live. Have we got any comments over there, Kev? Can you see?
I'll take a look. Well, we've got Helena saying hello, and Lowry saying, bring the kids on camera.
Larry, that's a bad idea, Larry.
I'm not going to scroll down because I'm worried about the phone getting moved there.
Okay, so Lynn's with us. Thank you for joining us, Lynn. Darren, thanks for joining us, Darren. Great to have you here, mate.
Hey, guys.
He's saying, found you, Lynn, lol. Not sure what that means.
Yeah,
Helena? Hey, Helena. Are the kids watching as well? Larry wants us to bring them on camera. What do you think? I don't think she's going to think that's a good idea. Cool. Right then, so we're going to move on to the main body of the podcast now. So, if those of you who are watching live have any questions, or you have any beliefs or values around money mindset that you want to bring up and talk about, drop us a comment and let us know, and we'll divert. I've got the laptop down here in front of me as well, so I am checking those live, but we're just going to take a deep dive. And the way this is going to work now is everything is going to be based around the content of this book, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of open it at random. So we're just going to flick through and we're going to pick a page, and then whatever view about how rich people think compared with how middle class people think is on that page, we're going to read out, and then we're just going to discuss it. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds
cool.
Excellent. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just wondering if I'm getting no in case you swear. Okay. So I just wanted to check I was getting live comments on the Facebook feed, which I am, which is great. And Helena says, no, I don't think that's a good idea in case you swear. So there you go. Not like me to swear.
When do you swear? When do I swear?
Just comes so easily.
Yeah.
I can't help it. The thing is, I've got mixed feelings about swearing, because I do appreciate the kind of the social conditioning around it and the way that people in society think about swearing. And it's an interesting question when it comes to your kids as well. It's like, well, your kids are going to swear at some point, whether they're 9 years old or 16 or 25 or 50. At some point, they're going to say a swear word. So what is the ideal age for them to be allowed to swear? Is it when they're 18 and you haven't got any control or influence anymore? Is it 16, or is restricting their language in that way actually a bad thing because you're controlling them through dominance? And wouldn't it be better then maybe to teach them how to use it properly? So I think with swearing, it's a tough one. I mean, obviously 3-year-olds, you can't explain to them like when it's right to say the F word or not, because sometimes it could be quite funny.
No, because I still don't know when the right time is, really.
But if you're swearing at somebody, then yeah, that could be potentially aggressive. But not even so. When I worked in retail and other jobs at restaurants, and you work in the kitchens back of house, you swear at each other, you call each other all sorts of names, and it's just part of that friendly banter. So I think swearing is a really important part of the English language, indeed any language. And I think there should be more kind of acceptance and education around it. And hell, you drop the C word or the F bomb, and like people turn around and pay attention. And I know Tony and some of the other speakers that we've been to see, they tend to use swearing to kind of produce an impact and to really implant something or kind of make an association with the topic that they're talking about and make you pay attention. So I think swearing is very valuable, but obviously you can overdo it and it can be too much or used in the wrong ways.
Yeah, you got to gauge the audience who you're with and see how they respond to it. If they're clearly uncomfortable, then it would be respectful to refrain from using it. Richard Bandler, again, he used a lot of language and he can be quite vulgar on stage as well. And my view was that if you are sitting there and you cannot get past the words he's using, unfortunately, perhaps you're not open-minded enough to take in what he's got to say anyway and the messages behind it.
Yeah, there's a lot behind the words. That's the point that people miss. Too focused on that. Too eager to be upset or offended.
Which are the barriers in the egoic mind rather than the subconscious. You know, and the taking offence to things is in the egoic mind. It's a creation of standards.
Well, it doesn't serve you.
No.
To be offended doesn't serve you. It's not helpful.
Absolutely
it's like being
not.
worried or, or angry. It doesn't serve you. It's just an emotional response. And when you're responding emotionally, you're not logically in control. And that's where people do things that they later regret, and it's just not helpful.
Yeah, I think it was Gandhi that said, "No person can offend you without your consent."
Absolutely, yeah. Well, you choose how you react to a situation. It's not. Thing is, you've got no control over what happens to you. You've got no control over the external events in your life. And if you put all of your happiness, you base all your happiness in a specific set of events or criteria that are based in external events, then you're giving away all the control that you have in your life. You're just giving it away to that event or that person or that thing. But when you say no, it doesn't matter what life throws at me. It could be the most horrific thing in the world, but I choose how I interpret that, I choose how I perceive it, and I choose how I react. And no matter what happens, there's always a lesson to be learned, and there's always a way that I can use it to grow and become a better version of myself. And I think when you approach even your direst problems and challenges with that mindset, then you really start to take this exponential leap in your personal growth and your development, and you live a much more fulfilled and happy life.
Yeah, and I know you're going to go on to that, but just to pick up on a point on when is it right to allow the kids to swear. Personally, I was brought up in a household that we didn't swear, and that was definitely taboo. You know, it wouldn't have gone down well at all, any swear words coming out. And I think that served well because generally I can switch it on and off like a tap. I can choose to swear, or it just happens in certain environments. I don't swear. Like before we were rolling this, I was swearing. Now we're rolling this, I'm not swearing. I'm
trying really, really hard.
However, I would say it is a preference that I do swear because I feel it's part of me, and I feel that it can be used to be impactful, and it can be used almost to be real, because if those words are in your head and you're keeping them in your head rather than saying them out loud, is that not a bit guarded?
Yeah, absolutely. You're still using them. You're not showing the true essence of who you are. Yeah, totally agree. I'd love to know, actually, the people who are watching live, what do you think about this? You know, what is the right time to allow your children to swear? You know, do you swear yourself? Do you limit the way that you speak when you're around certain people or certain groups of people? Drop us a comment and let us know, because I think that'd be really interesting to find out. Cool. So we're just going to move on to money mindset now. Let's get into this. Let's just check we're still rolling. Okay, cool. Right. So the first one I've opened the book on is point 84. So, middle class believes the rich are spiritually bankrupt. World class believes the rich are among the most spiritual people in society. Now, this is actually a really poignant point, and something that I talk about a lot, because there's this disconnect between health and wealth with people. They kind of view money as this evil thing and the root of, even in Ed Sheeran's song, is it Newman or no, Eraser? He talks about how money is the root of all evil and fame is hell, and it's just like, that's such an unhelpful way to look at money. It's like saying, well, you know, there'd been a news story in the newspaper where someone murders his wife with a hammer. I was like, okay, we're going to ban hammers now. Well, you're not going to ban hammers, are you? Because hammers are still really useful for knocking in nails and all sorts of other tasks. So it's not the object or the vehicle or the inanimate. You can't blame an inanimate object for something bad or something that you perceive to be bad, because what is truly intrinsically good or bad anyway? But, money can be used to achieve great things. Money's been used to build buildings, to pay for hospital services, to pay for all kinds of things, charities and people doing philanthropic work across the globe, entrepreneurs who put tons and tons of money into various different efforts across the globe to try and make the world a better place. And there's no way that those entrepreneurs, those business owners, those people could do that unless they had the resources, and resources come from money. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that. And I think the sooner that people accept that and move away from this really unhelpful view that, no, money's evil, and if you want money, you're greedy, and anyone who's trying to accumulate wealth is just, they're making other people suffer because they've got money and that means someone else hasn't got it. It's like, you need to get over yourself and you need to educate yourself, because the way that you're thinking about this means that you are always going to be limited in your life, and you're closing yourself to abundance.
That means you'll be one of those people who's not getting it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you make the choice.
The way you think about something it defines the results that you get. So if you think that money is evil, well, you're not going to do things that mean that you get money or that allow money to come into your life. Because if you believe it's evil, you'll just self-sabotage. It's like there's people that earn hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds a year, but are financially broke. And the reason for that is because they've got some limiting belief. It might be something from their past, from the way that their parents behave with money, and usually that's the case. In fact, I found that when I attended MMI, the Millionaire Mind Intensive seminar, what I found was I had a lot of really unhelpful beliefs around money and what money was and what it meant and how it was supposed to be used that came from my childhood. And that wasn't from any direct kind of teachings from mum and dad and all that kind of stuff. It was more just the way that they were in that economy in that time. They were the way that they had to be. They did the things that, they made the best choices they could possibly make in that time. But we don't live in 1983 anymore, or 1962. The world is a very different place now, and we have to try and move forward and move with the times and embrace money and realize that actually money is probably the best invention we ever created, because money is literally the only thing we've ever created that gives us the ability to leverage the entire human race. Now, I know that there are billions of people living in poverty, but quite literally, if you could introduce an economy into those countries, you would have a situation where you could leverage everybody's time and everybody else's resources simply with one thing, one vehicle, money. And that is a really cool thing, because if you can leverage and motivate an entire planet of what currently stands at a population of 7.5 billion people to do meaningful work in meaningful ways, shit, man, just imagine what you can achieve. Just imagine.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, money is simply a human creation. It's something that rather than you swap something for something else, it means that you're just swapping something for a note or a coin that says it's worth this, then you can swap it for something else later, rather than having to swap it immediately. So money is a human creation. And there are other things, and that's a human creation that invokes some strong emotions. So if you're going to blame that for being the root of all evil, surely you have to blame the other things that invoke strong emotions too. Now, many people will blame religion, but actually the debate about whether there's a God or a supreme being, that's not, something to get into. However, the human interpretation of it, the books that are associated with religions are written generally by human beings, well-intentioned human beings, but then people take their own views. It invokes a strong emotion. And other things that are much more common, sex, that invokes a strong emotion, and that causes people to do crazy things sometimes. Drugs, whatever drugs, your illegal drugs, alcohol, caffeine, all these things, they can invoke strong emotions. Your house, it invokes strong emotions. You'll do a lot to protect it. So all of these things, if you're going to blame one thing for being the root of all evil, surely you got to blame them all.
Absolutely.
So we're going to get rid of all of those things that invoke strong emotions, or we're going to focus on making those strong emotions healthy ones rather than unhelpful ones.
Totally. And to add to that, if you're going to blame money for all the bad stuff that money's done, if you're going to take that view, you've got to blame it for all the good stuff it's done as well. And you have to face the facts that, there's a lot of places that wouldn't have fresh water wells without people donating and giving money to those causes and putting the time and the effort in. And lots of great things, the city centres that we have, the cultural centres, and the way that technology is burst across the world, social media, money facilitates all these things. And so if you're going to blame money for the bad stuff in the world, you have to blame it for the good stuff as well and take that balanced view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
Cool, right. Excuse me. So if anybody who's watching live has any comments to add to any of this, then please do leave us a comment in the comment section of the video. We are monitoring them live. Just to prove that, we've had a comment in from Helena saying that she thinks, just coming back to the swearing point, that it's okay to swear in front of older children when they can understand, when you explain to them, well, this is the right way to use it or the right time and place to use it, and this isn't. But then when you're swearing in front of toddlers, it's not such a good idea for the reason I said, that you can't explain to them when it's a good and bad and appropriate time to use it.
I'm interested as to whether there's an age on there, because
that's a great question. Yeah. So Helena, if you could just pop on the comments.
The understanding that comes in, I personally think it's going back to that briefly. It's healthy if it's absent in a household, but maybe not absent once those kids become adults and they can actually see. We can have a discussion here. I can have a discussion with my parents, and it's okay to drop the odd F-bomb in there because that's how we talk.
Yeah.
But be respectful about it.
Yeah. So Helena, let us know an age. If you've got an age, we'd love to know an age. Cool. So we've got another random one. So number 21, we're going to look at now. So middle class people believes rich people are ruthless, whereas world class believes rich people are generous. That's very interesting. It kind of comes back to the same kind of point, doesn't it? Where you've got this viewpoint that if you're rich, you're greedy, you take money from other people, you take resources from other people, and all you're interested in is feathering your own nest. And that's, excuse me, that's certainly the way I used to think and feel. Several years ago, I used to be of the opinion that money was the root of all. I said all this super stupid stuff, man. I used to think that money was the root of all evil, and rich people were greedy, and corporations were greedy, and they're just destroying the world, and all this really negative, unhelpful stuff. And then when I actually started my own personal journey of personal and professional development, and I started going to these events, and I started seeing these multimillionaires and meeting these multimillionaires at the events and seeing them speak on stage and hearing them talk about all the things that they do, and then you go away and you research them, and then you follow them on social media, and you start to see, hang on a minute, these people are not only giving a lot of their money to charities, good charities that do good, meaningful work in the world, and we're talking tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds a year. They're also giving a lot of free content, advice, help, mentorship. I mean, look at Rob Moore's a fantastic example. Rob Moore of Progressive Property. That guy, he does a live feed video every morning at about 8:45. He does live feeds throughout the day. He's probably the most active person I know. He's a multimillionaire in his Facebook groups and on his Facebook page. And the amount of content that he puts out completely for free, not charging a penny, I just think it's absolutely phenomenal. And it really serves to serve the people in the community, and you're getting all that for nothing. He's got himself to a point where he's financially free enough that he doesn't have to go into the office 9 to 5 or whatever every day. He doesn't have to work in a factory, and so what he can do is contribute. It's not about making all your money and then going sitting on a beach in Marbella. That's not the point, because that's boring. What you want to do is you want to get there, and then you want to show other people how to get there. It's all about paying it back. And when you take a step up, when you take a level up in life, you need to reach down and help a few other people up at the same time. And you're always doing that, because that's where the satisfaction and the fulfillment comes in life. Because otherwise, you end up having all this stuff and all this money and just feeling empty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So a couple of points on there. The ruthless thing. I think that many people could perhaps mistake decisiveness with ruthfulness. And the people who are very wealthy, what they seem to do is become very clear on what the outcome is and make sure that those outcomes are aligned with their values. And then they generally won't allow anything that doesn't add to that to come in, because it's a distraction. So they decide what they're going to do, and then they take action on it. And they're not going to get distracted by other things that don't help them get to that point, which is the outcome and which aligns with their values, whatever it may be. They have a business in something, the chances are, and that business, what that business does aligns with their values, and they've got to think about how they make that business most functional. And most other things, unless it's to do with their loved ones, of course, but most other things, if they fall outside of that, they just don't entertain it. And that decisiveness and action taken can easily be written off by those that don't want to get involved that way as ruthfulness, which is completely incorrect. And then in terms of value, the reality is, when people have got to that point, you don't get money for nothing. You don't get things for nothing. That's not the way it works. If I knock on somebody's door and say, "Would you like me to mow your lawn?" then are they going to pay me over the odds for that? Or are they going to try and knock down and get the lowest price possible? Most people are. So if I say, "Yeah, I'll mow your lawn, it's going to take me an hour, I'll do it for 20 quid. Be like 15 and you've got it. All right, I'll do it for 15 then, And I'm thinking, wow, I probably could have got more for that. And they're thinking, probably could have got away with, paying them more there. It would have been fair to pay them more.
Yeah.
So you've done something, they've given you money for it, but most people, given money, they're trying to get away with giving as little as possible. So generally you have to give at least the value, if not more, of what the monetary value is in order to get it in the first place.
Well, that's it. If you don't meet someone's expectation of what value you're delivering and what they're expecting you to deliver, if you don't at least meet that, never mind exceeding it, then they feel ripped off. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. It's important how the customer feels. And if they feel like, it's like a great example of this is the Apple's iPhone. Released the first iPhone, and it just went crazy, and everybody loved it, and it was so popular and so successful. And then when they were working the launch to release a second iPhone, they were bigging it up, and people, because the first iPhone was such a step forward, people were expecting such amazing things from iPhone number 2, and it was bigged up and kind of celebrated, and to the point where they were never going to be able to meet the expectations of the marketplace. And so it didn't matter how good that phone was, it was always going to flop. And that's exactly what happened. It was because they didn't manage the expectations of the market well enough. They kind of let it get hyped to the point where the general public were expecting this supercomputer, almost this quantum computer in a phone, and there's just no way then that Apple could actually deliver on that. The other point I wanted to make as well is that, it says here about, middle class believes rich people are ruthless. Well, ruthless what? Ruthless about achieving their goals, ruthless about doing the right thing. That's making an assumption that ruthless is a negative connotation, and that's not necessarily the point. People, I would say that actually wealthy people are ruthless, because you have to be ruthless. You have to be ruthless about making sure that your goals align with your values, and that you define what your values are, and that you write that shit down. You have to be ruthless. You have to be motivated. You have to be tenacious, because there are a lot of motivated, driven, tenacious people in the world. We're a couple of those people. And if you're not motivated, if you're not tenacious and getting out there and getting after it day after day after day, because you love what you do, because there's passion that's driving you, there's always going to be people that beat you to the post. So I think you have to be ruthless. But I would say actually that's a positive thing rather than a negative.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's decisiveness. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll just pick up there that you're now going to need to put the warning, explicit content at the start of the podcast. Okay, so
I think I dropped one in a little bit earlier as well. We'll be all right. People can deal with a little bit of shit. Right then, so let's move on to another one. Let's see what we got here. Number 69.
Nice number.
I was just thinking that kind of harks back to our little foray into the sex conversation earlier, doesn't it? Okay, so this one then is middle class believes people seek money for power. World class believes people seek money for control. That's a very interesting one. Do you want to give me your thoughts on that?
So seeking money for power rather than for control.
Yeah, so middle class believes people seek money for power, whereas world class believes people seek money for control. So the first thing I'd say, well, are they different things or are they one and the same?
Yeah, that takes a little bit of analysis, actually. So, power. Yeah, I suppose... Yeah, I mean, control is a good thing. You know, we'll learn that control is a good thing, and being in control of what you do, control your decisions and such like. I think that many people without analysis may often view those two things as very similar. But power, yeah, that's power over somebody or having a control over a situation. So, yeah, I think it's really important that you are in control of certainly how you are and how you are in your circumstances, and you can control the outcome. So if you have, like we were talking about, values and making sure that what you're doing aligns with your values and your goals, when you've got the money to do that, you are in control of that situation. That doesn't mean that you are using it to have power over other people. And I think then the abuse bit comes in there, where you're saying, right, I'll just pay you 200 quid, just do that. You know, and then people are perhaps doing things outside of things that align with their values because you have paid them to do it. And then that would be using money for power, rather than using money as a way of controlling how your business or how you move forward.
Yeah, controlling it. So the distinction there is really, are you having power over somebody else, or are you having control over yourself? Because I think the focus is a little skewed there as well, because you might look at that and go, well, okay, well, yeah, you're saying that world class believes that the people seek money for control, but yeah, you're just going to control other people. Well, I don't think that's what it really means. I think that control reference is less a reference to controlling external factors, but more a reference to controlling their internal factors. You know, when you can control your state of mind, when you can control your discipline so that you can put the right things into your body, you know, you're controlling your discipline so that you get up and you do some exercise in the morning, or you at least exercise several times a week. That control over yourself is what gets you the results in the external world. But the focus isn't on controlling the external world. The focus is on controlling yourself, because when you can control yourself, when you know yourself well enough to control yourself at that level, to that depth, that the results just come. And it comes back to that whole focus thing where you don't focus on being successful, don't focus on making the money. You need to focus on doing what you do and doing it the best you can possibly do it. And when you do that, everything else follows.
Yeah, and just moving on from that there as well, just to lead on from what you said. Yeah, it's actually something that I've said to a lot of people about. You know, this business thing, it's tough. There's no two ways about it. You know, often you are concerned about whether you're going to be able to pay your bills. You don't have a regular income. It's not like you know your salary. And I think that when you are making decisions from an emotional point of view, as in you are worried about not being able to pay your bills, that is not then a controlled decision. And I often say that when I get to a point where I no longer need to worry about paying my bills because I know that's covered month in, month out, that's going to allow me to move to a place where my unique creativity can really be unleashed, and then I can really start adding much more value to other people because I'm not thinking about my own circumstances quite so much because I'm not worried about them. So the worry is lack of control. Whereas once you have sufficient money, and often say, to be able to give strength to another, you have to have sufficient strength yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you get to that point where you're comfortable, you don't need to worry about it anymore, and you're absolutely in control of how you go about things rather than being emotionally driven. So there's that point there to it, I would say. But that was quite a tricky one, just off the cuff, you know?
Some of them do make you think, you know, some of them aren't quite so straightforward, and there's, again, depending on your perceptions, you can interpret these statements in different ways. And, you know, if I was sat here having a conversation with a different person, I might get a different interpretation of what that means. And
No, I could guarantee it, yeah. I mean, mine are just weird sometimes.
Right. Let's see what we got. Oh, number 68. So we're going one before. So this one is middle class believes money will make them happier, whereas world class knows that money has little to do with happiness. I think that's very true. And I think when it says world class, I think that the important distinction there is world class in mindset and having really mastered everything. There's a lot of wealthy people who've got a lot of money, a lot of wealth, who are absolutely miserable. Those people aren't happy. So I suppose that they know as well, actually, thinking about it, well, it's pretty obvious to them if they're not happy, then they've got all this money and they've got all this stuff that money doesn't buy happiness. But it certainly does help as well. That statement in itself isn't necessarily a very helpful one, because saying that money doesn't buy happiness, well, it bloody helps. If you can afford to go on holiday a couple of times a year, if you can afford to do the work on your house that needs to be done to stop the water coming in, or the car breaks down, you can afford to get it fixed. If you can't, then that makes life very painful and very difficult. So money absolutely in that sense can buy happiness, and that statement isn't very helpful.
It makes things a lot easier for sure. My mind is in a different place from times that I'm worried about whether I'm going to be able to pay all the bills and everything that needs to be paid, to when I don't worry about that. And most of the time I can get myself into a creative zone, even if it is a situation where I'm a bit concerned about whether I'm going to get enough money in, or that is a current situation. I can get myself often into a creative frame of mind where much more productive when not worrying about that situation, So same thing again, like we were saying earlier. So therefore, when you're not concerned about money, you are much happier. So, and no, money doesn't buy happiness. If you're not happy already, having more money is perhaps going to exacerbate that problem. We've heard stories about people who get a lot of money and the fear of losing it just becomes greater.
Yeah.
But one thing that often gets said, and I say it to a lot of people now and I try and live by it, is the greater rewards will go to those who have got the most energy. So when you present yourself with a lot of energy and a lot of happiness, and I can honestly say that, my favourite facial expressions now are smiling and laughing. I spend a lot of time doing that. I try and present myself that way to people, try and present myself with energy, because especially when I'm delivering training, because they're going to feed off of me. And when you present yourself in that way, people want to spend time with you, people want to do things with you, people want to do business with you. So I would say getting yourself happy is more likely to bring the wealth rather than the wealth bringing the happiness.
That is a fantastic point. I love that. That's perfect. I couldn't agree more. And, it really is a misconception of middle class and poor people that, if only I had the money, I'd be happy. Well, things would be easier. You wouldn't necessarily be happy. If you're not... The thing is, no matter who you are, where you are in life, you've got something to be grateful for. You've got a ton of things to be grateful for. The very fact that you're alive is something to be grateful for. So it's about finding those things and looking for those things, rather than your focus being on all the negative stuff in your life. Oh, I've never got any money, or no one likes me, or this or that. You're complaining about stuff all the time, and your focus is on all this negative stuff, and then you wonder why you're getting more and more of the negative stuff in your life. Well, where focus goes, energy flows, and results show. And when you realize that and you start to retrain your mind to focus on the positive things and to focus on the things that you want, so many people, you ask them what they want and they'll tell you what they don't want. Everybody knows what they don't want, but very few people can articulate what they truly want. And that's a really interesting thing. Go out and ask people, what is it that you want? And you'll find that most of them tell you what they don't want. And what that should tell you straight away is that they're never going to get the things they truly want. A, because they don't know what they are, really. If they can't tell you, they don't know what they are. And while they're focusing on the things they don't want, that's all they're going to bring into their lives. And the sooner that people appreciate and understand that, the sooner that's when the change can happen.
Yeah. And in NLP terms, that's essentially called towards or away thinking, And to really get to a place of success, You've got, okay, the away from thinking, the things that go wrong in your life, the pain, they can often be the biggest motivators to make a change and get started on something. But at some point, to really get to that place of success, you need to switch your thinking towards. What is it you want to go towards? And I use, a bit of a metaphor with magnets. And I say we've constantly got two magnets acting upon us, one either side. And one is just naturally stronger than the other. You've got a don't want magnet and you've got a want magnet. And unfortunately, the don't want magnet is loaded up much more powerfully than the want magnet. So if you don't empower that want magnet with things, with goals that you would like to achieve, and make that strong enough so that's pulling you rather than the don't want magnet, you're continually going to get dragged back to doing the things that you don't want to do.
Absolutely, yeah, you're totally right. Cool, let's have a look at what else we've got here. 22. So, this one says, middle class has a lottery mentality. World class has an action mentality. I think that's a great one, because you see people who win the lottery and then they end up months or a couple of years later and they've lost it all, they've got nothing. And they just, because they didn't kind of do the things and be the person that they needed to be in order to get that organically, when they got it artificially through winning the lottery or gambling or windfall or something, they don't know how to manage it. They don't know how to behave with it, and their habits and their behaviors and their beliefs will put them right back to where they were. There's a reason why you are currently where you are, and that's not to say that you can't change. That you absolutely can. We are both living examples of change. The amount I've changed in the last 4 to 5 years has just been absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, you absolutely can change. But you are where you are right now because you need to grow. And you need to grow in order to get more wealth, to get more happiness, to get more of whatever you want in life. You have to know what that is, and then you have to grow in ways that help you to achieve it. Rather than being focused on, doing the scratch cards and playing the lottery every week and, that'd be my quick fix. I don't need to try hard. And that really is a way of you just kind of dipping your toe in the water of success and going, well, yeah, I kind of want it, but nah. I can't. Yeah, I'm going to do a business and I'll do it on the side, but I'm going to play the lottery as well. And it's like this get out of jail free card. It's like, I don't have to try too hard on the business because I'm feeling good about my numbers this week. It's that kind of mentality. Yeah. But completely not appreciating that even if they did get that windfall, they're not going to be the people they need to be to keep it. And that's the simple fact of it. You have to understand how to manage your money and how to make your money work for you. And that's been one of my passions and what I've immersed myself in over the last couple of years is money and money mindset. And how do you make money work for you? Because in school and college and uni and all these things, education, you're taught how to get good grades, regurgitate information, go out and get a good job, get a career, earn whatever you can earn in your career, your profession, retire and get married, have kids and all the rest of it. There's a set way that society expects you to live life, expects you to conform.
It's pretty convenient though, isn't it, to be fair?
Yeah, it is. But because society is set up to deal with that model.
If we've got too many free thinkers, blimey. What
I know,
state would we be in?
God forbid. But, it's set up for that. But what they don't teach you is then how to make your money work for you. And, people, the depths that people usually get to, it kind of stops at, they'll have a pension that is kind of opened and operated by their workplace, their employer anyway. And if they're a little bit more savvy than that, they might go to an IFA and they might have a stocks and shares ISA that is, it's a fund that they pay into and it tracks various different things and all the rest of it. But that's about where most people stop. And even people who've got pensions or they've got stocks and shares ISAs, they don't understand what they are. All they know is that they pay money in and it's an investment, whatever that means. And if they leave it in for long enough, the plan is that it will go up. But even people are losing faith in that happening.
To be fair, at least if they're doing that, they're doing something.
Absolutely, yeah. Because a lot of people, most people aren't even doing that. Very few people have anything saved. Oh, I don't know. You got a little foray into the crypto world, maybe?
Yeah. Well, I spent a lot of time thinking, well, let's worry about pension later.
Thing is, though, what I'm trying to get at is, pension's fine. If your employer's going to pay into it, you're effectively getting a mini pay rise anyway. So why not? But ultimately, you should be the one who's managing your own money, because there's no one who's got your best interests at heart more than you. And the first thing I will say is, if you are going to get your money managed by an IFA or by a fund or someone who's going to advise you, the first question you should be asking them is, how much money do you make in a year? How wealthy are you? What's your net worth statement balance? Because if they're not filthy rich, then they don't know how to get filthy rich. Because if they knew and they could make you rich, then they would be filthy rich
first. Yeah.
Exactly. So if they're not rich, and if they're not doing things that are producing fantastic results in terms of their investments and the way they're managing their money, probably not the best people to be taking advice on.
I'm just in money making for the love of it.
Yeah. But you're not making any money.
Yeah, you love it, but you're not doing it. What's going on?
Yeah. No. I just like helping other people get rich.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, then. Right. Well, you can go and work with some of those other people then, and I'll go and find someone who's actually knows how to make money.
Yeah. So just a couple of points on that again. With the lottery thing, I would put a guarantee on the odds being better on you becoming relatively wealthy. People think of being wealthy as being a millionaire, whatever. But if you can achieve financial freedom, you're doing all right. And all you need to think about is, how much do you need to earn per month with a rolling income for your bills to be covered? Anything else on top of that is then a bonus. Ultimate financial freedom is where you've got enough money to do whatever you want. But financial freedom is you've got a monthly income coming in that's not for you giving time to it, so passive income from some sort of investment that covers your income. And that's not actually a great lot of money. So if you put your mind to it and take action, then you've got better odds of achieving that, far better odds than you do of winning the lottery, which the last I heard when I paid any attention to the lottery was about 1 in 13 million. It's probably even more, because I think they changed the number structure to it. So the odds are even less than that. And also, it takes me back to Richard Bandler. People will go, yeah, but how do you get confident? How do you get momentum? And a lot of people, they're not confident because they are quite simply not taking action that aligns with their values. And as Richard Bandler says, and we've got a Class B expletive coming up. So as Richard Bandler says, the only way to get confident is by getting shit done, and it's quite simple. You get stuff done that aligns with where you want to be, and you think, hey, I achieved something.
That's true, yeah, you're absolutely right. I remember when I first started doing Facebook Live videos, and I just remember beforehand I'd have to amp myself up, and I'd be all nervous, and I'd have my notes, and I'd be like running over what I was going to say in my head, and then thinking, just stressing out. But the more and more you do it, you just force yourself into that zone of uncomfortableness, and you just grow and grow and grow. And now doing Facebook Lives daily almost, it's just almost second nature, and you learn to relax. And I think people expect to just kind of, especially the younger generations, they expect to get from point A to point B without traversing the road in the middle. And I think that's a really damaging mindset, because you can't get to point A to point A to point B without failing along the way, and people don't appreciate, particularly young people today, they don't see the failures along the way. They see Richard Branson so successful, Elon Musk is so successful. Jesus Christ, read their biographies and you look at the journeys, you look at the failures that they endured, you look at the hardships, the hard times. Richard Branson was in jail, for goodness sake, for export fraud. They've had these phenomenal journeys, and it was all those experiences that built them up to be the people they needed to be.
Does that mean he's a bad person, or does that mean he made a mistake?
He made a mistake.
He made a mistake. A poor decision.
You are not the mistakes you make. The mistakes you make, they're just experiences. They're just bumps along the way. But you've got to learn from them, and it's okay if you make mistakes, and you can keep making this. It's okay to keep making the same mistake over and over again. But unless you learn the lesson that thing is trying to teach you, then you're going to keep coming up against it again and again and again in different forms until you learn the lesson. Because life will just say, no, you're not done yet. You still need to learn this, and it will keep throwing stuff at you with a view to try to teach you that important lesson. And if you're not open to it and you don't learn, then that's where I believe people have these miserable lives, is they're not moving and growing forward. And because they're not moving forward and growing, life is just keeps throwing the same shit at them and going, no, you haven't learned the lesson. Have some more.
Yeah.
And then it really, growth does solve all of those problems, because it really does help you overcome your challenges. And the greatest gift that it gives you is a bigger, badder, harder, stronger challenge. And that's a gift. And that brings us nicely onto actually the next point, which is middle class loves to be comfortable, whilst world class is comfortable being uncomfortable. And that is so effing important.
Can I just touch on briefly about Elon Musk there, because you mentioned Elon Musk, and for anybody who's looking at getting a business or achieve any goals, I mean, reading Elon Musk's biography is powerful.
Amazing.
And I don't, part of me being who I am is being open. It moved me to tears and a lump in my throat to the point where he was struggling. He had these two massive companies going. He was days away from not being able to pay the staff's wages. And then all of a sudden, people who saw faith in what he was doing at NASA, not the top people, got together and said, we need to give this guy a contract for what he's doing here. And a big contract come in, and all of a sudden the whole fortune's turned from all his persistence. And there was somebody then that gave tribute at that point in the book to just how persistent Elon Musk is. And no matter what people thought of him, it was viewed really, there can't be anybody else on the planet that has remained more persistent and resilient of the face of absolute adversity than Elon Musk.
Look at the things he's achieved. I mean, that man, the things he's achieved with Solar City, with Tesla, with SpaceX have just been absolutely phenomenal. And you're right, he's been to the point of almost bankruptcy. It got to the point where they were trying to get this rocket to launch, and they were trying to get it to work, and the first three attempts just exploded. And they were at the point where if number 4 exploded, that was it. There was no more money. And like you say, and they got that fourth one up in the air, it launched, and it was like, oh my, thank God for that. We've done it. We're there. And he always pulls it round. He's always late, but he always pulls it around, and he always delivers eventually. And the things that he delivers, he just sets the bar so high, and he thinks so big that even if he achieves half of his vision, it will be, just world changing.
Well, he wants to colonize Mars in his lifetime, doesn't he? So, I mean, how big a goal is that?
Just and electric cars for everybody, and accessible electricity that solar powered and clean, and I mean just the vision of the guy. And that's what I'm talking about. When you've got that vision, motivation and drive, and the resources to support that, you can achieve some truly amazing things in this world. And just imagine if everybody had the tenacity and the resources of someone like Elon Musk. Just imagine cloning that man and having 7.5 billion of him moving the human race forward.
Yeah, just to contrast. So, Mr. Smith, what's your goal? Well, I'd like to stop eating cake and lose a couple of pounds, but I keep going back to the cupboard. Okay, and what about you, Mr. Musk? What's your goal? Well, I'd like to colonise Mars, and I ain't going to stop.
But then he makes all the other decisions in connection with that support that goal. So he needs to be healthy. His mind needs to be sharp. So he eats the right things. When you have those visions and those goals that are bigger than yourself, bigger than your company, bigger than everything, then you every other decision that you make falls in line with that, and you just become who you need to be to achieve those goals.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted.
That's cool, point. Man. No, that's fine. We can jump around. We can do whatever we like. So just coming back to this point about middle class loving to be comfortable, while world class loves to be is comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think that's a great point, because I mean, I know personally that I'm sure you do as well. Particularly in Taekwondo is a great example. When I'm uncomfortable, I know I'm learning. I don't want to go into a sparring match, particularly if I'm training. If I'm training and I'm sparring, I mean you do, because you've got to pay it back. So you can't forget that. But I don't want to spar down. I don't want to just pick people who I know I can beat, because why would I? I'm not learning. I'm not growing. I want people who can kick my ass, who can hand it to me and say, you're not quite as good as you thought you were. You still got some holes in your game, because that just makes me go away. And it really pushes you when you're in the moment to really up your game, because you've got this high level stuff coming at you. So you're trying to model and mirror that and match it and surpass it. But then you go away from that, and you're so motivated, and you're like, I've been to training sessions where I've come away from it kicking myself because I've taken that much of a beating and I've been that disappointed in myself. I've been like, can't believe it. I'm usually better than this. I should have been better with that person or that person. And on the one hand, putting yourself down like that isn't helpful and it isn't healthy. But I think a lot of the most successful people in the world do think that way. They're extremely hard on themselves, and what that does is it's a real powerful source of drive and motivation because, you don't lose a lot of matches in sparring, but I've had my fair share, and particularly in competitions, if I lose a match in competition and I don't get through to the medals or I don't win first, because you're always aiming for first place, then I'll come away from that and I struggle emotionally to deal with it because I'm beating myself up because I know I should have done better. I expect more of myself, and I have to have a quiet word with myself sometimes, and I have to manage that. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to be without it, because without it, I wouldn't be like gagging to get back in the training hall and spar with the tallest, fastest, youngest people I could find. Because next time when I see that dude, I'm kicking your ass. I'm coming for you. And, without the loss, I always say, I've learned more from a single loss than I've learned from all of my wins. I can't overstate that enough. Losses, failures, messing stuff up, making mistakes, it is an essential, critical part of the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, too right. For sure. You learn most, and that's what I was going to say there, sorry. The point you made about, you feel bad and then you're beating yourself up, it's really important that that's quite short term though. And that's the difference between real winners and losers. Yes, you feel stung. Yes, your pride is maybe knocked, but you allow that emotion to come through. You get rid of it, and then you focus on what it is that you need to do to get up to that next level, rather than dwelling on the things that you've done wrong for too long.
Yeah,
you've got to switch it pretty quickly from what did I do wrong to what do I need to do right.
Use it, don't let it use you. That's the difference. I think that's a fantastic point. Right, we're just going to do one more, and then we'll see if we've still got anybody live. Nobody live at the moment. So if we've got some people live when we've gone through this next one, we'll open up to Q&A. If not, then we shall wrap it up, if that's all right with you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, let's make this one a good one. So, how rich people think. Number 96. Middle class doesn't connect travel with wealth. World class knows travel connects them with the wealthy. That's an interesting one. Initial thoughts on that one?
How many millionaires do you know in Llanymynech?
None in Llanymynech.
Sorry for the incorrect pronunciation.
So there should be some Llanymynech, I think is what.
Okay, right.
The Welsh tongue.
Llanymynech.
Yeah, you got to spit at people when you're speaking Welsh.
Yeah. So, and there are probably a couple, but are there a couple that are aligned with your business, your line of work, or do you need to travel to seek that? If you just got to answer that question to see what the answer is to the point in there. I've been up in Edinburgh this week. Okay, I was up there for work. It was up there for time for money type work. But if I chose not to travel, I'm limiting my opportunities. It's as simple as that. And I was saying to somebody earlier today that, my friends and people that I associate with, they're spread around the country. If I want to spend the time with them and do things with them, I come and travel up to Wales and such like, and I'm spending time with good people that I like, but also in doing that, I'm spending time with people who could enhance my opportunities. So, it depends on what you say. If you live in a little village and there aren't many people there, then it speaks for itself that you're going to have to travel to have any chance of wealth, unless you get a fantastic internet business going. But you still need to reach out generally, and even the communication online is quite limited. The things we say, the words we use, are 7% of our communication approximately.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then facial expression, body language, things like that. you often then need to get face to face for that to be a flowing conversation where you can really intuit what the other person is thinking and can see whether you connect with them, because that's what's going to lead to the opportunities. It's not about what you are, it's about who you are and how you connect with people. You know, the single most important skill I say that people need to develop, to whether you're young or old, whatever stage of life you're at, is that ability to communicate and relate to other people effectively.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And you need to go out and meet other people to do that, wherever they may be.
Well, it helps you learn and grow as well. You know, if you're just in one part of the world, or you stay in one country and you never visit and experience any of the cultures, any of the countries, and the way that different people do things, the way that different people interact and communicate. And it's just one thing that my parents always said to us as well, is that they always made the effort to find the money to send us on school trips, because they wanted us to see as much of the world as possible, to see as many different cultures as possible, because they believed that it was a great way for us to learn about other human beings and learn about the race that we're a part of, and to see that not everybody's the same and people do things differently. And I think that's part of it, is that, you know, you think about all the seminars we've been to, all the things that we've done, and all the traveling that's come with that. And if we hadn't have travelled, or hadn't been prepared to travel to those things, just think about the experiences we would have missed out on. You know, imagine not going to UPW last year. Imagine not going to MMI. I mean, Christ, the transformations for me at both of those seminars alone were just absolutely phenomenal. And the National Achievers Congress before that, you know, things that I saw and learned there, people I got connected to that completely changed the course of my life. You know, if it wasn't for traveling to attend the National Achievers Congress, I would never have got into trading, and I wouldn't be the successful trader that I am today, and have all my investments and be into crypto and all this stuff. So when you're prepared to travel and you're prepared to open your mind to experience different things, different cultures and different people, and to take a genuine interest in that as well, not just to kind of go there and, you know, set in your ways and, oh, well, this is how I do stuff, so this is where I'm going to do it here as well. But to really immerse yourself and go, well, okay, this is a different way of thinking. This is a different way of living. Let's try it on for size. Let's see how I feel doing their thing their way. And I think the more you can do that, the more it helps you to understand other people, not only other people in that country or that culture, but other people in life in general, because it more opens your eyes to the fact that everybody is different. Everybody operates differently, and there's such a rich, wide variety of people on this planet. It's just never ending. And so you must be mindful of that in your interactions with people. And like you said earlier, great point, always seek to understand. The first thing you should seek to do is to understand, not to be understood. Yeah.
And traveling, you could use the metaphor of, you know, when you want to learn about something or you want information on something, are you going to decide to go to your library of one book? Or are you going to go to your library of a whole wall of books?
No, I'm going to go to Google.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Well, even that, whatever pages, you'll find that they're coming from all over the world.
It's a great point, though. You know, like my bookshelf is massive. I've got so many books now, they won't fit on my bookshelf, and I do a lot of my reading through Audible. So that says something, you know. The amount of physical books I've got on personal development, business, mindset, money. It's amazing to know that all that information is there, and half of them I hadn't read yet, because when I hear about a good book, I buy it, or I'll download it, or get it on Audible, add it to a wish list. And so you just start accumulating all this great stuff. And I've got a reading list that's probably 50 books long, but that's exactly the way I love it. I find that exciting, enthralling and thrilling, because I just know that there's so much further for me to go.
I noticed that some of that is done in the toilet as well earlier.
A lot of that's done in the toilet. In fact, I'll be honest, my main read physical books is all done on the toilet.
Right.
Yeah. Because otherwise
I'm... It's not get a little bit uncomfortable after a while.
Well, I'll share something with you. It's a little personal, but I tend to have like a little footstool.
Okay.
So the best way to do your business, if you're doing that kind of business, is to actually sit in a squat position.
Yeah.
Because that's how we used to do it.
Clean exit.
Yeah, clean exit. That's how we used to do it. It kind of lines all the intestines and lines everything up so that it's free flowing, for lack of a better way to put it. So... No, I just get that interested in the book, and I've got my position sorted. So I have my coffee, I have my book, I have my movements. It's all good. It's all part of my little morning routine.
Yeah, but the metaphor with the library, you know, the wall of books, I was using that as a metaphor for taking lots of different opinions and viewpoints from many, many different people around the world, rather than just a singular viewpoint.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Cool. So, firstly, thank you very much for coming up here and to see us and to be on the podcast, especially the first one. I feel really privileged that you've come and you've been my first guest. Thank you so much for making the effort. I really appreciate it. We did have a live viewer then, but they have since gone. So if we've got anybody live, if you're watching live, give us some thumbs, some hearts or something. Otherwise, we're going to wrap things up. Let's just have a quick look at the Facebook feed. Oh, so it says Sarah Capper is watching. So nice to have you with us, Sarah. If you're still there, give us a little thumbs up or just let us know that you're still live with us. And if you have any questions around what we've discussed today, if you have any unhelpful money beliefs, or maybe you resonated with some of the things that we've talked about, some of the statements in the book, maybe you resonated with some of the middle class statements and you disagreed with the wealthy point of view, and maybe it was the other way around. So if there is anybody live, then let's have your questions or some indication. Otherwise, we're going to wrap things up and go and get some food. We've got a nice evening planned. We're going to go get a bite to eat in Oswestry, going to get some drinks, and we're going to rough it and see if we can catch the bus in just a few minutes. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jamie. Thank you for inviting me up here. It's a pleasure, as I said earlier. It's a privilege to come up.
Great, thanks.
It's been fun.
So just before we wrap it up then, Kev, do you want to just tell people where people can find you online, your social media, and where they can find out a bit more information about SWL training?
Yeah, so we have the SWL training page, which is fairly successful. We share a lot of content through there. Of course, it's in the niche of the lifting industry, but I have a group called Lifting Knowledge Development, which is about enhancing people's knowledge in a positive fashion within the lifting industry. I also have my own Facebook page, just Kevin Bennison, and I have a blog, kevinbennison.com, which you've held me to account and said that I need to be doing more this year. So
So what's your target? This is ultimate accountability now. So this is going to be recorded on a podcast. It's going to be on iTunes. We've got it live. We've got someone watching live now. So if you're live, whoever's watching live, can you give us some thumbs, give us some hearts, just let us know that you're there with us. And if you have any questions, pop them in the comments box now below, and we'll get to those because we're just wrapping up. If you have some questions, we will stay on for a few minutes and answer them. Sorry, Kev.
Yeah, we'll do at least one blog a year.
One blog a year. I think we could up the target a little from that. What about one a month? Let's go in easy at one a month.
Right, yeah.
Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, group, community, let's hold Kevin accountable. We want to be prompting him. We want to see those blog posts. We're expecting quality content from you posted in the group once a month.
Okay, yeah. Well, on the blog website, yeah, and I'll share that, yeah.
Yeah, share it through so we know you're doing it. And I love reading your blogs. You've got a great writing style. So I'd love to see more stuff from you this year.
Thank you.
Great stuff. So thanks very much for those of you who have joined us live today. It's been great to launch the podcast. I've had a fantastic time. I'm really looking forward to the next few episodes, and it's been great having Kevin on the podcast. So if you enjoyed this today, then please do leave us a comment. Let us know what you liked. Let us know what you didn't like. We love feedback. Feedback is so valuable. It helps us learn and grow, and ultimately provide more value and a better service to all of you. You know, this podcast, the company, everything that I'm doing is aimed at serving the community and helping you to become the best version of yourself. So hit the like on Facebook. If you're not already in the community, you can search Optimise Me Now on Facebook. It's just at Optimise Me Now. There's also the Facebook community, which is just Optimise Me Facebook community. So just search for that, and the group is linked on the Facebook page. I have got a website that's under construction at the moment as well, which is www.optimisenow.com. It's taken a bit longer to get that live than I expected, but I'm making good progress and it's almost there. So that will be going live. The plan is it will be going live next week. So there's some accountability for me there as well.
Everything takes longer than expected. Otherwise, you've just got time wasted.
Absolutely. We'll get there. That's the main thing. And that's the important part of this is just baby steps, you know, particularly starting this company and having all this stuff to do. It can get quite overwhelming, but when you just reel it back and just say, right, well, I've got to do X. I know what my goals are. I know what my strategy is. I just need to do this, then this, then this. And it's just bit by bit. And eventually you just carry on like that and shit just gets done.
To quote the book, what's the one thing you can do right now to make everything else become easier or unnecessary?
Absolutely. And if you can approach your to-do list with that mindset, you're just going to smash it.
I think it was Brian Tracy that said a to-do list is actually a to-don't
list. Yeah. I just try to keep everything up here in my head at the moment, and it's not working so well. So it can be useful writing stuff down sometimes.
For sure, absolutely, yeah.
Cool. So I think that concludes the very first episode of the Optimise Me podcast. Thank you very much for joining us today, Kevin. It's been a pleasure having you on, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Thanks very much. Take care, guys.
Cheers. Thanks. All the best.